Hey, what's really going on? Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Today, going to be taking a look at XLM against USDT. Going to be assessing some of these key technical aspects of price action moving forward. Going to be looking at the support and resistance I believe we're going to be interacting with in the very near future here. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you bullish? Are you bearish on price action moving forward? Let me know your thoughts on the direction of XLM. Do you believe we're at support? We think we're likely to rally back upward here. Vertical recovery, plow through all this resistance that we kind of just came from. Get up to that, 79, 80 cents that we just came from the not so distant past. Or are you bearish on price action? Do you believe there's more downside ahead of us? We're going to plow through potential support at kind of 20 cents here. Interact with these lows, get into the teens, tens. Are we going straight to zero? What are your thoughts on the direction of price action moving forward? Now, jumping right into it, to kind of recap price action that has rallied from this potential pending 16-cent level, my kind of support line there, that price action has interacted with both as support and resistance, I do believe. We see price action between the kind of 24th of November of 2020 up to the kind of like 5th of January of 2021. We have price action consolidating above and below this very critical 16-cent level. So I do believe that is another point. Price action as an attempt to find support along if we are bearish enough to kind of reach, and why I believe we are potentially bearish enough to kind of get down there has to do with some significant resistance present around kind of 24 cents, or perhaps 25 cents being the psychological round level, but 24 cents as my kind of resistance there. We have price action interacting above that level, looking toward it as support from the 6th of January all the way up to the 28th of January, and we have a very bullish bounce kind of following that, getting us into some kind of upper ranges of support and resistance that we found consolidation between. But this critical 24-cent level, I do believe, is going to be a very significant kind of psychological round level that will give us very significant support or resistance, kind of depending on how we interact with it. And so far, we've experienced some very potent resistance from that range, getting slapped from it all the way down to this potential bouncing point near 20 cents. We have a wick on the 22nd of June that reached all the way down to this level. That was bought up very quickly. So we'll have to see if the buy pressure can return. Now, a new perspective comes into play when we consider EngineeringRobo, along with the FIBA, Lamborghini, Fettuccine, Zucchini, Bikini lines of Lamborghinis again. We can see this 0.236 Fibonacci level at 21 cents is going to be potential resistance here. Not looking too good in the short term. Perhaps that could slap us all the way down to that critical 16-cent level I was referring to. We have EngineeringRobo still bearish from the dreaded kind of 19th of May. Change in momentum there, break downward, plowing through all of that beautiful support that we established kind of just prior. Interacting with the 200 daily moving average. Now we have price action failing to find support along it, falling down beneath it, suggesting some very high technical sell pressure. Some bears are present. Some bearish bias is currently kind of present at the moment, and some breaks downward are to be expected due to the very high technical kind of sell pressure. Although the fundamental buy pressure and ever so high demand for XLM at these levels does suggest that there are still some bulls present. So price action in a very critical spot. Lots of technical reasons to be kind of bearish here. 0.236 resistance at kind of 21 cents here could slap us kind of down to that 16-cent level. Although, like I said, the buy pressure present could get us back above 21 cents and give us perhaps some bullish upside in the kind of short term. But now, a new perspective comes into play when we consider XLM against the Bitcoin. Here we can see a kind of similar price action returning to a kind of very key level that we kind of bounced from. We have consolidation between this sort of lows of like 670 Satoshi, in addition to resistance around 750 Satoshi there. It's going to be a very kind of key range that we could stay trapped between for what appears to be kind of a few weeks. We have price action from the 10th of March of 2021 all the way to the 5th of April of 2021. We have price action bouncing between, you can say, kind of two ranges. So we could perhaps expect a month between these kind of two zones from this point moving forward, even though we have already had technically, I mean, if you consider the 22nd as time below that zone, we've had a good almost 2 weeks kind of trapped under this range. And so perhaps, like I said, a month, month and a half, 2 months even could be following this kind of phase of consolidation here, as this does seem to present a tight range that we could get kind of trapped in here. Now, new perspective comes into play when we consider EngineeringRobo's buy and sell suggestions. In addition to the Fibba, Lamborghini, Fettuccine, Zucchini levels of bikinis, we can see that 0.236 Fibonacci level down there at 657 Satoshi, going to give us some good old significant support. That's going to potentially hold us through this phase of consolidation under significant resistance found at 750 Satoshi. That candle on the 16th of July is not looking too good in the short term here. Very big rejection off of that level there, wicking all the way up to 804 Satoshi, but then getting very close to kind of 750, and then sort of what appears to be sort of closing below, and then the following candle opened below that level, suggesting kind of further resistance. And so quite bearish in the short term here. Very high technical sell pressure. We have price action below that 200 daily moving average against the price of Bitcoin. We have resistance at the 0.382 Fibonacci level. 842 Satoshi appears to be a significant resistance as well once we finally do get out of this range and find ourselves above 750. In addition to wherever the underside of this 200 daily moving average is going to be very significant sell pressure that is going to slap us back down to wherever we came from. So there is definitely a lot of resistance overhead that we will likely have to kind of like plow through and then perhaps come back down to confirm as support before we can continue the uptrend. Overall, I'm still quite bullish long term. Long term, I do believe this is all a part of the a healthy phase of recovery. The more sideways we can be, the more like lengthy this accumulation can be, the more bullish in the long term we can be, and the more healthier the uptrend is, in my opinion. So now lots going on for XLM. We have price action returning to a very critical, area that we could be quite, trapped and squeezed in, slapped and spit on for a period of time before we can find a kind of breakout here. Lots going on for XLM against the price of Bitcoin. From what we consider Bitcoin, now we can see this new perspective come into play here. We have price action in a very, very critical state, getting absolutely slapped and rejected by 32K. The 0.5 Fibonacci level at 34K was giving us a really hard time in the following weeks kind of prior, slapping us both above and below, but ultimately pushing us below 32K, that last kind of bullish level that we were supposed to hold in the kind of short term here, and we are now seeming to be making our way toward the dreaded 0.382 Fibonacci level at 27,000, a target that I've been expecting and was suggesting was not impossible for quite some time now, as we were finding our way toward 32K. There's been tons of fundamental buy pressure and bulls present. I do believe the overall demand for Bitcoin at these levels is very high. That's why all of these dips are getting bought up very quickly, and price action isn't just falling kind of like vertically downward. There's lots of buy pressure still present, although there is a overall abundance of technical sell pressure that wasn't present in the kind of like months leading up to now. We have the EngineeringRobo bearish on the 12th of May there. We have price action below the 200 daily moving average, which is going to be a very high technical bearish indicator. We have lots of resistance ahead of us. We just came from some very euphoric all-time highs, so there's plenty of reason for some short-term downside, although I do believe all of this downside, all this accumulation is very bullish for the trend in the long term here. It's never a bad time to buy Bitcoin, only better times in my opinion. Price action looking for another attempt at support around in the 27K there, just the low 30s, high 20s. I believe we could find support if we are bearish enough to fail the 0.382. That could send price action down to my next kind of most bearish target there at the 0.236, 18,100. Price action down at that range could ultimately be very bullish long term. Like I keep saying, I do believe all of this downside and sideways and returning down to these levels that we kind of haven't seen for a while are going to be quite bullish long term. There's going to be some great times to buy in before the six-figure range, before we pass all-time highs. These are going to be some lows that we may never see again. So price action finding its way down there would perhaps correlate with a new perspective that I'd like to kind of bring into play. When we consider EngineeringRobo's fear and greed index, the fear and FOMO zone, we can see into kind of this new perspective. We have what's below here, the fear zone. This is a great time to be accumulating. So if price action is currently found around 20K based on current levels, that would be a great level to be accumulating. Overall, a very high abundance of buy pressure will be present down at this range, and this is when you'd want to be accumulating, expecting the uptrend to continue. That is going to be a very big buy indicator, a very bullish indicator for long-term investors, as that does suggest some very abundant buy pressure coming into play, and perhaps a change in momentum in the market. Whereas the top of the range here, the FOMO zone, is where a very high sell pressure is present, and perhaps long-term investors are taking profit, and this does perhaps suggest potential market top around 102,000. So 6 figures is still in the light for Bitcoin. We do have potential market top just above 6K there. That is when very, very high sell pressure is going to be present. I do believe that is when many traders will be taking profit. $100,000 is going to be a very significant round level for Bitcoin. That is going to cause some very, very, very volatile price action. There could be a very huge sell-off causing 20, 30, 50% correction downward, or we could have a 20, 30, 50% pump right past that level and into the multi 6-figure range there. So there's definitely lots going on for Bitcoin still. There's plenty of room for downside to still be bullish in the long term, although I do believe there is plenty of room for upside to still perhaps be bearish in the short term. Once we get above 32K again, that'll be a significant level of support. That 0.5 Fibonacci line at 34K is going to give us a hard time. Once we dominate that level and secure it as support, the 0.618 Fibonacci level at 41,500 is going to be waiting to spit right on us, slap us, kick us right down to where we came from. So there's definitely plenty of overhead resistance in addition to wherever the underside of this 200 daily moving average is. So lots going on for Bitcoin. Thank you for hearing my analysis. Thank you for tuning in. Try EngineeringRobo free with a link in the description. Let me know in the comments down below. Are you bullish or are you bearish on price action? Are you accumulating at these levels? Do you think we've found support? Are we going to bounce? 6 figures, all-time highs around the corner, or is there more downside? Are we going to plow through the 0.382 into the 20s, into the teens, get into this fear zone? We're headed straight to zero. What are your thoughts on the direction of price action moving forward in this fearful, uncertain, and doubtful time in the crypto sphere year? Thank you for tuning in, and tune in for the next one.